Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're digging into something that really touches every single day of your life, whether you realize it or not. Daily routines.
Yeah, it's fundamental, isn't it?
It really is. And the sources we've been immersed in, they propose this really compelling idea. What if shaping a good life isn't primarily about, sheer willpower or just trying harder, but more about intelligently designing your day? It feels maybe a bit counterintuitive, maybe even rigid, but they argue that these small, repeatable actions you weave into your daily fabric, they profoundly influence your thoughts, your work, how you navigate the world.
And what really stands out from this material is that this idea, this embracing structure, it isn't some modern productivity like fad, not at all.
Right.
The sources show us people have relied on routines for literally millennia. You've got the highly structured days of ancient monks. Think the Benedictine rule with its clear cycles of prayer, work, rest.
Yeah, very defined.
Very. And then you look at influential figures throughout history, they often had these meticulous schedules. It's presented less as a chore, more as this quiet underlying architecture that can make a life feel grounded, purposeful, and, well, just work.
Absolutely. So our mission in this deep dive, pulling from this stack of sources you've given us, is to unpack the why, the how, and I guess the real power behind daily routines. We want to go beyond just listing habits and really get to the core insights about what makes them effective, what makes them fall apart, and maybe how you can approach them in a way that genuinely serves you.
Okay, so diving into why routines matter. The sources first take us on this quick tour through history and culture. Beyond the monks you mentioned.
Right.
Think about the Stoic philosophers. They incorporated daily reflection, specific practices into their lives. It was a path to virtue, to resilience. These weren't just random acts. They were deliberate routines, built to cultivate a certain kind of inner life.
And then, like you said, it wasn't just ancient times. Bam, the Industrial Revolution hits. And this completely restructured how society thought about time, didn't it? Imposing these external, synchronized schedules tied to factories, clocks.
Exactly. Our modern concept of a rigid workday routine is deeply, deeply rooted in that historical shift.
It's also fascinating how the sources mention cultural differences in how time itself is perceived.
That part's really interesting.
Yeah, some cultures are more monochronic, right? Seeing time as linear, prioritizing doing one thing at a time, sticking to the schedule.
Right. Versus polychronic cultures where maybe multiple things happen at once and relationships often trump the clock.
Which just highlights that even the idea of a routine can be culturally shaped. It's not universal in its application.
Definitely not. And that leads us right into a fundamental question the sources really wrestle with. Do routines genuinely free you up, or do they just box you in?
Yeah, that's the core tension, isn't it? Are they liberating, automated decisions so you have more mental energy for the big stuff? Or are they limiting, making you feel trapped, inflexible?
And key to that distinction, the sources point out, is differentiating between just a simple routine and a ritual.
Okay, explain that difference.
So a routine might just be the repetition of an action, often just for efficiency, like maybe mindlessly scrolling through emails first thing.
Guilty.
We all are sometimes. But a ritual, even if it involves the same action, it's performed with intention, with presence, maybe even some meaning.
Ah, okay. So instead of just chugging coffee while checking notifications,
Right.
it's taking a few minutes to actually savor the warmth, the smell, the taste. Maybe look out the window.
Precisely. The sources suggest rituals add this layer of richness, of mindfulness, preventing life from just feeling like a series of tasks you have to get through. They bring meaning to the mundane, you know?
That makes sense. So if routines and rituals have this historical weight and potential for meaning, how did your brain actually make them happen? Let's get into the science.
Okay, yeah, the science is really interesting here. The sources explain it comes down to habit formation, and it's rooted in neuroscience. They talk a lot about the habit loop. This often involves a part of your brain called the basal ganglia. You can kind of think of it as your brain's automation center.
Go ahead.
And the loop has three parts. A cue, that's the trigger, like seeing your running shoes by the door. Then the routine, the behavior itself, actually going for the run. And finally, the reward, that good feeling afterwards, or maybe just the sense of accomplishment. Cue, routine, reward.
Cue, routine, reward.
Got it. And what's particularly insightful from the sources is the role of dopamine. It's not just about the final reward hitting. Dopamine is strongly involved in the anticipation of the reward.
Ah, so just thinking about the good part.
Exactly. That little release you get thinking about the positive outcome strengthens the whole loop. And this is why something like habit stacking works so well.
Explain habit stacking.
It's linking a new habit you want to form to an existing reliable cue, like doing 10 push-ups right after you pour your morning coffee. You leverage that established loop for the coffee to help build the new one for the push-ups.
Clever. You're piggybacking on an existing pathway.
Precisely. And bringing in behavioral psychology, the sources reference B.F. Skinner's work on operant conditioning.
Okay, Skinner boxes and all that.
Sort of, yeah. It's the basic idea that behaviors followed by positive reinforcement are more likely to be repeated. So, in routine building, those small wins, finishing a task, hitting a mini goal, they act as positive reinforcement. They strengthen that habit loop.
Makes sense. Little rewards keep you going.
And they also connect this to Carol Dweck's concept of a growth mindset.
Ah, the fixed versus growth mindset idea.
Right. If you approach building routines with the belief that you can develop and improve at it, rather than seeing setbacks as, like, total failures,
Then you're much more likely to stick with it.
Exactly. You refine your process. You see routine building itself as a skill you can learn.
The sources use a really powerful case study for this, right? Athletes.
Oh, yeah. High performance is a great example. They mentioned Serena Williams' specific, very consistent pre-match routine, bouncing the ball a precise number of times, certain movements.
Yeah, you see that with lots of athletes.
And these aren't just random tics or superstitions, not really. They are powerful cues that signal to her body and mind, okay, it's go time. They help manage anxiety, focus attention, transition into that peak performance mode. They're leveraging that cue routine reward loop under intense pressure.
That's a great illustration. Okay, so with that understanding of the why and the how, the natural next question is, how do I actually build a routine that works for me? Not for Serena, but for...
Right. And the sources are really, really clear on this. There is no one-size-fits-all routine. It has to be personalized.
Okay, so where do you start with personalization?
A crucial starting point they highlight is understanding your own biological rhythms, your chronotype.
Chronotype, like morning lark, night owl.
Exactly, but maybe a bit more nuanced. Are you wired more like a lion waking up early, lots of energy? Or a wolf who thrives late? Maybe a bear who kind of follows the solar cycle? Or even a dolphin, known for more irregular sleep patterns?
Huh. Lion, wolf, bear, dolphin.
Knowing your chronotype is pretty fundamental because it helps you structure your day with your natural energy peaks and dips rather than constantly fighting against them.
Yeah, trying to force deep focus work when you're naturally slumping. That's like swimming upstream, right?
Totally. It's just inefficient and frustrating.
So once you have a sense of your chronotype, what practical components do the sources suggest for building out the day?
They break it down into segments. So for the morning, it's not just about waking up. They suggest intentional triggers, maybe not just hitting snooze repeatedly, prioritizing hydration right away, incorporating some form of movement, even just stretching, and identifying your golden hour.
Yeah, golden hour.
Yeah, that period, usually early on, of focused time before the day's distractions really take over. It's ideal for your most important creative work or your most demanding task. Protect that time.
Okay, that makes sense. What about the workday itself?
Techniques like time blocking come up a lot, dedicating specific chunks of time to specific tasks, really planning it out.
Like scheduling meetings with yourself for specific work?
Kind of, yeah. They also mention the 90-minute focus rule, the idea that you work intensely for about 90 minutes, then take a necessary break. It aligns better with our natural ultradian rhythms, our energy cycles.
So strategic breaks aren't interruptions, they're actually part of the plan.
Absolutely integral to sustaining focus, the sources argue.
And the evening. That seems just as important for setting up the next day.
Oh, vital. They recommend a digital sunset. Setting a specific time to disconnect from screens, especially that blue light that messes with sleep.
Easier said than done sometimes.
Tell me about it. But also taking time for reflection on the day, what went well, what could be improved, and doing small preparations for tomorrow, packing your lunch, laying out clothes. It just reduces friction and decision fatigue in the morning.
Little things that make the next morning smoother.
Exactly. And the sources also zoom out a bit, looking at weekly rhythms, not just daily.
Oh, okay.
The concept of anchor days. Maybe dedicating Sunday morning to planning the week ahead, or Saturday afternoon to meal prepping. These provide stability and structure beyond just the 24-hour cycle.
Right, building a larger framework. And they mention some specific tools or frameworks too, don't they?
Yeah, helpful ones.
Hmm.
The Eisenhower matrix comes up sorting tasks by urgent versus important, helps you prioritize what really matters versus what's just noisy.
Urgent, important, urgent, not important, etc.
Right. And Parkinson's law, the observation that work tends to expand to fill the time you allot for it.
Oh, I know that one well.
Yeah. It's a powerful reminder to set realistic, maybe even slightly tight time constraints to help you stay focused and efficient.
But all this structure,
Yeah.
it only works if it's flexible and genuinely fits you, right?
Yeah.
This section on customization seems key.
Absolutely key. The sources really hammer this home. Your routine is a tool for you. It has to adapt to your personality, your current life stage.
So how does personality play into it?
Well, they touch on how different personality types might need different routines. Maybe using frameworks like Myers-Briggs or just general self-awareness. Someone who thrives on social energy might build in collaborative work blocks. Someone needing solitude carves out that quiet focus time.
Makes sense.
They also specifically mention ADHD-friendly routine strategies, things like breaking big tasks into tiny micro-tasks to avoid overwhelm, or using body doubling where you work alongside someone else, even virtually, just for that sense of shared focus and accountability.
Interesting. And life stages obviously have a huge impact.
Huge. Your routine as a student is totally different from being a parent of toddlers, which is different again when you're retired.
And think about remote work versus office work or hybrid models. Each requires a different daily structure.
Exactly. The sources emphasize your routine needs to evolve with you. It's not static.
They suggest a really practical exercise too, don't they? The time audit.
Yeah, I love this one. Just audit your last 3 days.
Hmm.
Simply track where your time actually went without judgment. Just
Yeah.
observe.
You might be surprised what you find.
Often very surprised. But that awareness is usually the essential first step. It helps you identify where a routine could help, or maybe where your current habits are leading you astray.
And that audit probably helps you see when it might be time to deliberately break or adjust your routine too.
Precisely. The sources are really clear. The goal isn't robotic adherence. There are signs your routine isn't serving you anymore.
Like what?
Things like burnout, obviously, feeling bored or resentful towards your schedule, or hitting a plateau effect where the routine feels stale and just isn't producing the results or the feeling it used to.
Okay, so what do you do then? Just scrap it.
Not necessarily scrap it all. Strategic disruption is key. They talk about planned routine vacations, consciously stepping away from the strict schedule for a day or two to reset, or making seasonal adjustments, recognizing your energy and needs might genuinely change with the season.
Right, acknowledging that life isn't uniform year-round.
Exactly. And the core insight here, which the sources keep coming back to, is that your routine should be your ally. It should help you achieve your goals, not become your master, trapping you in rigidity. It serves you.
Okay, but we do have to acknowledge, as the sources do, the dark side of routines. When does all this structure tip over into something unhealthy?
Yeah, this is an important point. This is where they critique aspects of modern hustle culture or that productivity porn you see online.
Right, the pressure to optimize every single minute, always be on, always productive.
That kind of obsessive focus on efficiency can become toxic. It really can.
And that pressure cooker environment can absolutely lead to anxiety, right?
Ooh.
Trapping you in this perfectionism mindset
Right.
where any deviation feels like a catastrophic failure.
Totally. And this is precisely why the sources stress that balance and flexibility are non-negotiable. They have to be built in.
How do they suggest finding that balance?
Well, they mention things like the 80-20 rule. Aiming for perfect 100% consistency is often just unsustainable and breeds anxiety. Being good, maybe 80% of the time, that's a much healthier and more realistic goal.
You give yourself some grace.
Exactly. And perhaps most importantly, knowing how to recover after a day or maybe a week, that didn't go according to plan. That's vital.
Yeah, how do you bounce back?
The sources remind us one failed day doesn't mean you throw everything out the window. You just acknowledge it, maybe learn from it if there's something to learn, and then you pick back up with your routine tomorrow or whenever feels right. It's really about progress, not perfection.
Progress, not perfection. I like that. Okay, finally, the sources invite us to look ahead a bit. What's the future of routines in this, rapidly changing world?
Yeah, this part gets truly fascinating. They speculate on how technology will continue to shape how we design our days. Could AI play a bigger role?
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
How so?
Well, the sources discuss the potential for much greater personalization powered by AI. Imagine apps that might adapt your schedule dynamically based on your real-time energy levels, your mood, maybe even biometric data from your watch.
Wow, like a responsive schedule.
Exactly. They mentioned tools like Rise Science that are already kind of exploring this space, linking sleep data to energy predictions.
And they also pose the idea of using AI tools like ChatGPT as a kind of personalized routine coach.
Yeah, helping you brainstorm structures, troubleshoot problems when you get stuck, or suggest adjustments based on your own input and feedback. It's an interesting possibility.
Beyond AI, what other shifts do they see?
Well, the sources point to broader societal shifts, many accelerated by the pandemic. Things like experiments with the 4-day work week, or the rise of asynchronous work cultures.
Where teams prioritize output and flexible scheduling over everyone being online at the exact same time.
Right. These directly challenge those traditional 9-to-5 structures and open up totally new possibilities for how individuals can design their own routines.
Which leads to a pretty thought-provoking question from the sources for you, the listener, to consider. Would you actually trust an algorithm to design your ideal day?
It really forces you to think about control versus personalization versus, what truly defines an ideal day for you? What are your values?
So as we wrap up this deep dive, the central, powerful idea we've distilled from all these sources seems to be this. Building a good routine isn't really about being controlled or constrained. It's actually about intentionally carving out the time and energy for the things that matter most to you.
Exactly. A well-designed routine isn't about control for control's sake. It's about creating the space in your day for your health, your meaningful work, your relationships, your creative pursuits, your reflection time. It's about making sure the urgent doesn't constantly crowd out the important.
Okay, so here's a challenge for you this week, inspired directly by the source material. Tweak just one element of your routine, just one thing.
Yeah, maybe it's scheduling 5 minutes for quiet reflection in the morning, or blocking out just 30 minutes for truly focused work with no distractions, or setting a firm digital sunset time in the evening. Something small.
Take a moment, maybe later today, to reflect on your own day design. What does it currently prioritize just by default? And what could one small, intentional routine change make more space for?
And maybe ponder this final thought. In a world that's constantly pulling for your attention, how do you actively, consciously design your days to build the life you truly want instead of just, living the one that happens by accident?